All right, ladies and gentlemen, folks, boys and girls, and everybody as well. Welcome to another podcast, Podcasting with Autism. First and foremost, welcome. I'd like to thank all of my followers and all of my members, my fans and subscribers, and those collectively like to listen to Life with Autism. Life with Autism is not fun. It's not entertaining. It's not easy. It's not a piece of cake. It can be very challenging. It can be very mind boggling and it can be a complete eye opener for some people, but it can also be the worst nightmare to those that have it. Now, having said that, today's podcast is going to be titled Podcasting with Autism Changes in Schedules. Okay. Now, I'm going to be talking exclusively about changes in schedules because one of the issues with autism is changes in any sort of schedules, okay? And that's one of the downsides that people with autism tend to deal with is the changes in schedules, okay? Now what am I talking about? I'm talking about on a day-to-day routine. Let's suggest that I get up, I go eat breakfast, and then I immediately end up going to use the restroom, and then after I use the restroom, I go out for a walk, and then during my walk, I go to the mailbox, and after I go to the mailbox, I come in, and then I go watch a show, like a cartoon show, or I go watch something, maybe sports or something, and then I do some work, and then right after that, I go have lunch. Okay? That's my typical for the sake of this podcast, that's my typical routine. But tomorrow, let's suggest it's the same kind of day, no different, with the exception that um, during my TV show, someone I know comes in and says, "Come on, let's go. We're getting in the car and we're going to go do an errand." Now, for people on the autism spectrum, typically that would ruin their day because they don't cope, they don't handle shifting in schedules very well. Okay. So there are times where you may have to meet them halfway, and there are times where you don't interrupt their schedules. Now, being a parent, I understand you're gonna try to come at me in the comments, but I am a parent of this child, and I am the only parent. I'm a single parent, so I have no choice. They have no choice. We have to do this, okay? I get that. But my point is that having and let me tell you folks, this is no surprise. I am and was born with autism. We didn't find out until later on in life, but I was born with a condition, okay? And it was a complete nightmare for me. It was a whole meltdown. It was a big ordeal. I didn't like it. I was trying to resist, so I did my own thing. And even if I was forced to go, I would totally be absent the entire time. I would go find someplace, go hide there, go do something to distract me, go entertain myself. Now, let's say I'm in a grocery store and I didn't want to be there. Do you all remember those coupon pullers? Well, do you know what I end up doing? Now, it's funny because you would think it'd be a sensory issue. Nope. I went down every aisle and I went plink, 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 and I pulled them out from every dispenser, every single one. Why? Because I felt like it, because I was mad as anything, right? So later on, years down the road, how did I cope with that growing up? Well, we have this thing called being independent, right? You got to learn to do it on your own. Um, there were some shifting in mentalities for me that really kind of pulled that out of me. And dating was a whole ordeal all on itself. Um, but and this kind of leads to that whole predicament about dating and schedules and stuff. And it kind of led into the dynamic of me finding a new routine. Okay. But it wasn't the sole purpose. It did definitely help and invoke that, but it wasn't the only reason it occurred. So, um, now when there is a change in my schedule, for example, let's just say, and this happens more times than I can count, a good thing to do is my work. Okay. So my work has multiple work areas. All right. And then we have to, every so often, we have to get reassigned a work area. All right. So I may get put in one area. I work for a while. I learn the routine. And then a couple months later, okay, stop. We all have to figure out where everyone's going. And by the way, this is all done by seniority. It's not, okay, I get number 4 every single month or every single time. So I have to pick from my seniority. Where my seniority is where everyone else's seniority lies. Okay. So I may be in the middle, I may be at the top, I may be all the way down at the bottom. You just never know. Okay. And by the way, that for me, if I'd had like severe autism, would have ruined me, right? Because it's not, quote, fair to me, right? It's out to get me. Okay. But now, when we end up going for a work area, we have to pick from, quote, pick from a hat. There's a whole bunch of choices for me. And I'm like, okay, I like this one. So I submit. And if it's accepted, it's accepted. And then the next person goes. And then the next person goes. And so we all get our areas. And once we're all done, then we all start this routine. Okay. But there are certain occasions where staffing is not at the minimum staffing requirement. Okay. That means that we don't have the minimum to make the job business run correctly. All right. And even sometimes at the bare minimum. So we need to move people from areas that are secondary or alternative areas to primary areas. Okay. The whole reason you're at an airport is to get on a plane and to fly and to go see your friends, your family, right? So the plane is the main focus. So you would think you'd put more of the focus on the staffing into the gate areas, but um, I know that some people will tell you, well, there's some other areas that need to focus too as well, and we'll get there. But I don't wanna get too involved because that's more of a logistics and more of a management type thing, so I don't wanna get involved in that, but I'm using that for an example, and just pay attention for me just real quick here, okay? Just the other day, I was assigned to taking care of offloading and uploading cargo, goods, shipments, okay? We take it and we bring it to a warehouse, and then that warehouse distributes that among all the trucks, and then the trucks go drive their trucks, their tractor trailers on the road, and they deliver it to a distribution center, and then they ship it to wherever it has to be. So, let's say it comes in on a flight from, like, someplace overseas, like Hong Kong or Mexico or the Philippines or Australia, like Sydney, okay? And it comes in, and then we offload it. Now, let's say it's going to, um, Chicago. Let's say it's going to, Italy, okay? So what would happen is it would come off, we would take it, put it at the warehouse, and then we would then let them deal with it at that part because it's no longer, in our hands, right? So the shippers and distributors end up taking it off our hands at that point. All our job is to offload it and upload it, okay? With the means of equipment and resources. But the other day, I went in and I was supposed to start midday and I got there. And then all of a sudden, I get a message from my management team saying, I'm sorry, but your assignment area has now been moved. Please act accordingly. It was stated some other way, but it was basically saying, okay, you're now assigned to such and area, right? Now, eh, years ago, I would have flipped out and said, "No, you're moving me back. I'm not moving. You can't make me. I'm not going. I like this." Okay? But luckily for me, I love aviation. I eat, sleep, breathe, and dream aviation. So no matter where I go, I'm still a part of aviation. Now, if they told me I was to leave the airport entirely and go work in an office and deal with it, I'm like, okay, no, I'm not having this. I was told to work in an airport, and that's where I'm assigned to be. You can't move me from another building, another um, city, another area. That's where I was told to work. That's where I agreed to work. Where this would be a breach of agreement, okay? And that's for another conversation later, okay? But often in times they'll tell me your assignment has been changed. I'm like, oh, okay. I get to learn something different, learn something new. pretty cool, pretty fun. Um, Speaking of which, I just heard my phone go off. Now, I wanna make sure that I did not just receive that message, so stand by, folks. Alright, so, no, it was just a miscellaneous message. It was not really that important or critical. Um, yeah, okay. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to screen capture this, and I'm gonna show you what this looks like. Okay, done. Save to photos. Okay. This is just a brief understanding of some of the things that we have to deal with. Okay. As you can see, now it probably is not going to come in clear because of my camera, my web camera, but do you see all of these small individual messages? These small individual messages told me, okay, the first one was from October 6th, and this was at 1 o'clock. Your assignment has been moved now to this particular area from 2 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Okay, please see further details. Now, 4 days later, 4 days later, your assignment has now been moved to this area from 2 o'clock till 7 o'clock. Please see further details. Okay, 7 days later, same thing. Okay, and then after that, that same day, folks, that same day, all right, the 17th of October, I got a message at 1:30 saying that my schedule's been moved at 2 o'clock. Okay, all right. Now, the time constraint here, we can have this debate off of this social media account for another time. I'm not going to really debate that. Like I said, the whole point of these podcasts are not to argue, folks, but I just want to show with you the confliction that people with myself have to deal with in jobs that are this demanding. Okay, and I don't want pity. My job here is not to ask for pity. My job is to just let you understand that there's a world of people that are trying to cope with these things that don't have a very good job of coping with it from the day they were born. They have to learn this. When we were born, we don't have that neurotransmitter in our brain that says just deal with it, right? Like Nike says, just do it. We don't have that neurotransmitter that says just deal with it. We have a meltdown, we have an episode, it's a whole big deal, okay? But okay, so back to this. So at 1:30, it says you've been changed from 2 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Please see accordingly. Now, fast forward to 7 hours later. I get a message the same day. Your assignment has now been changed again for tomorrow, the 18th, from 2 until 7. Okay. So, do you see how frequently my area changes? Okay. And I know that some of the airlines don't do this in some area, work employers don't do this. This is just something specific to my employer, and we all agreed to this when we signed up. This is not something that's a surprise to us, so it's not something we can fight, something we can, kind of go against. We all knew this was going to happen, and this was susceptible. And I kind of like this because, as you may think, someone with autism doesn't like changes in schedules. I enjoy it when I go eat out and I go eat and say I want craving for pizza. I cannot have pizza every single night of the day of the week because it would drive my brain overloaded. Like, okay, I've had way too much pizza. Let's have something else. If I have pizza the next 4 nights, I would get physically sick from eating pizza. Now, there may not be anything wrong with the pizza slice or pizza pie itself to make me sick, but the idea of having pizza over and over and over and over and over would make me sick. Matter of fact, when I work at my airport, the only place to enjoy food is really, Chick-fil-A, okay, in my assignment area. So, when that happens, okay, folks? The only thing to go up and grab is Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich, Chick-fil-A chicken nuggets, this, that, and the other. Now, imagine eating that for 4 months straight. Folks, let me tell you something. When I go buy a Chick-fil-A, I cringe. When I walk by a Chick-fil-A and I smell the grease and the, oil, my stomach turns like I want to vomit. That's how bad it gets, okay? So, it's funny I'm talking about this because you would think it's the opposite for me, but I don't mind change. Now, mentally, what's going on? Good question. So, mentally, when I see these changes, I don't see them as you're being punished. And now I see them as opportunities, okay? Because in the past, let me disclose this information, okay? I'm going to privately share this with you. This is no secret, no thing I'm hiding from you. I've had 25 different jobs since I was 17, okay? And yes, I had my first job at the age of 17, okay? Um, and it was legal. I was given proper authorization to work, and there was no problem against that. Okay. So, having said that, I pretty much realized when I'm in a place that I want to stay, the more times they move me, the more skill and the more knowledge I'm going to gain and being able to climb the ladder. And I didn't learn this until I volunteered for my local firehouse. Okay. Because as a just a regular old EMT, as a regular old fireman or firefighter, right? You're only gonna stay there. Okay. Granted, every firefighter is an EMT because that's where they start. They always go through EMT school, okay, for the combination EMS and, fire, houses that are built now today, because 'cause they're going with a combined house where they've got EMS and fire dispatched at the same house. Now in rural and very, 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 very remote areas, like in the city I'm sorry, in the country, you may only have 1 house for fire, and then you may only have 1 hospital with 1 ambulance responding to you. So I'm not talking about those, but I'm talking about your more modern and your more, suburban and urban style areas where they have a combination style house of EMS people and fire people. The only way to escalate and climb that ladder is to earn an advanced skill or gain an advanced skill. So if you were to stay a fireman, right? If you wanted to learn technical ops, you could learn technical skills, learn technical talents, okay, if you will, and then go for that team. And then once you on that team, let's say you want to go for um, hazmat. You could go into the hazmat. So now instead of just fighting fires, you could be going to technical calls. You could be going to hazmat calls. You'd be going to BMT calls. Do you see where I'm going with this? The more skill you learn, the higher you go on that skill ladder, that technical ladder. And the faster and easier it is to get to the very top and say that you fought your way and earned your way there instead of just saying, well, son, we have no more spots left. You're the only person. We need you at the very top of this ladder right now. Start right now. I'm here to tell you that there is a 0.000000000000573% chance that's ever going to happen. Yeah. Count how many zeros there are. By the time you do that, this stream will be over. My point is, it doesn't work that way. You have to earn your way up there. So, the amount of times that they move me, I only see that as a aid to allow me to move up the ladder when I want to be there, okay? Because there's probably other people that are trying to fight for that same position that are more knowledgeable than me, okay? I'm also going to disclose something as well. I don't have a college degree. I learned very on early, and I think this was something that having autism gave to me, is that I knew and I picked up that more of our workforce was gonna be blue collar work, right? Hands-on work, fingers, nails, and grease work, all right? So I made a vow to myself to learn these types of jobs, these types of industries, like food industries, mechanical industries, aviation, hospitality, transportation, that's that and the other, retail, right? Because you don't need a college degree to learn retail. You can stock shelves all you want. You can, cash somebody out all you want. Matter of fact, it's all done for you sometimes. So the changes in schedule now don't affect me the same way that they used to. It used to be a meltdown for me when I used to do this. Um, so that's how I cope with it while being autistic is and let's say it's not even work related. Let's say that you and I are hanging out, right? And let's say that you forgot something, so we have to go take your car and picture this, we're all watching, a movie, or we're all playing a game, or we're all in the room doing something together, okay? And you say, "Oh, I have to go do something. You have to come with me." Now, did I plan that? No, I didn't plan that. Did I plan for that? No, I didn't plan for that. But the way I see it, I'm going on an adventure. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know who I'm going to see. I don't know what I'm going to do, but at the very minimum, at the very least, we're going on an adventure. Okay. Do you guys remember the movie Homeward Bound: Incredible Journey? Do you guys remember when those dogs got lost? Okay. And spoiler alert, I'm gonna ruin the video here in a few seconds. Do you remember when the dogs got lost? They eventually found their way back home. But it wasn't until they had an adventure together. Do you think they planned to have that adventure by getting lost? Do you think they planned to get lost? It just happened, right? Same with autism. We don't plan for these things, but they just occur. And we have to make the best of them. Otherwise, our life would be miserable. Your life would be miserable. Um, the world will not stop. The world keeps revolving, all right? And that's also something I learned in my relationships is that even though I didn't like something, even though something didn't go my way, the world is not going to stop. They're not going to wait until I collect myself and then come back. Okay. If you're married, hopefully that should be the case. But if you're not, that's one thing I learned is that they're not going to wait for you. If you wait too long, your chance and your moment gone. See ya. Goodbye. Okay. So I learned very quickly that I have to get my act together on my own and do it the best that I can so it doesn't look like a scene has just exploded, right? Meaning like a big old disaster, a meltdown, right? A natural disaster has not just occurred. Okay. We try our best not to have that happen, but let me tell you, there are moments where it does occur, and we try our best not to allow that for that to happen. Um, so yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Discussing changes in schedule. Um, there have been moments where I can almost mentally um, like an empath, or like someone that's psychic, I can almost sense if it's gonna happen. Like if I'm on the way into work, I can be like, I'm sensing they're gonna change my assignment area, or I can see things being put together piece by piece by piece. Okay. Do you guys like the rain? Like, be honest with me. Do you like the rain? Do you like the snow? I'm not talking about playing in the snow. I'm talking about the act of snowing. Okay. Probably not, right? Because it makes your tires slip, it's cold, it's wet, it's unaccounted for. Same with rain. It's wet, it's unaccounted for, it's cold most of the time. There's some showers that are warm, but I digress. For the most part, it's cold and wet. I don't like that. You don't like that, right? So if I don't like that and you don't like that, all you viewers, and by all, I mean all of them that are possibly watching and listening to my podcast, right? There's a fair amount of you that do. There's probably going to be a few people that are going to be like, I'm going to stay home. I don't feel like coming in, right? And I'd be naive to think they won't do that because let me tell you, there are people that do call out just because it rains And it's not just in an airport, it's in other places where you have to work outside as well, like garden facilities, stuff like that. Sometimes they'll call out because they don't wanna do that. Now, is it silly? Yeah, because we've got ponchos, we've got rain gear, we've got raincoats, we've got umbrellas, we have, waterproof barriers to keep the rain off of it, this, that, the fourth. So, it's kinda silly, but so be it. Um, and for those of you that don't know, yeah, because I work in an airport, we are issued rain gear. So, that was something that we were told we had to have because we are outside. Planes just don't get to stay inside because 'cause they're cold, because they're wet. Doesn't work that way. Um So, yeah, we have to wear rain gear for that, but they'll call out. So, if I sense that it's going to rain, I have to mentally think, "I'm probably going to get moved from this area to this area." If I have it easy in this area while it is raining, they're probably gonna pull me and move me to the area to help aid the area that needs support. That's just the way it is, right? So, I can sort of sense these things. So, that's another way that I cope is when I go into work, instead of just absent-mindedly drive into work and, do this and that and the other, get into work and then start my days, I normally, while I'm at home, I start thinking, I start planning, I start, um, contemplating, and I start strategizing how my day is gonna go, how I'm gonna get things done, this and that. You guys just do this automatically, right? That these are things I consciously and subconsciously think about, okay? As I'm doing actions, right? I'm physically thinking about it. My brain is processing it. You guys just do it. It's just already processed, okay? So, um, yeah. So we with autism, we are consciously doing this on a day-to-day basis. I don't think you guys are aware of that, but that's why sometimes when you speak to us and when you converse with us, we are absent because we are thinking of scenarios, conversations, phrases, words that we need to project to you, thoughts to project to you, ideas to ask of you. We're trying to process sounds because people with autism have a huge sensory overload. Um, and sensory overload didn't actually really play a vital role in my schedule changes. Now, if I went from a very quiet to a very loud environment, um, it was definitely an overload. Folks, let me tell you something. When I worked in a very quiet area for the first couple of weeks, while I got my job working at the airport, to being physically right next to the engine, okay, as I parked it and as we walked it out from the gate, it was a complete overwhelming emotion for me. It was a sensory overload like none other. Now, did I lose focus? Absolutely not. Did I make sure I was safe? Absolutely. Did I make sure that I had everything I needed? Oh, you betcha. But that one part of my brain was like, this is too much. This is too much. This is too much. But only because I was used to being in a quiet and controlled area. Okay. Where I didn't really hear much except noises I expected to hear. Right. Like bags that were coming towards me, approaching me, people approaching me, having a conversation. Right. But, like, the loud engine noises and stuff of that sort, yeah, that was something that was just overloaded, and remember, it's not just one plane, it's multiple planes in that whole airport, so one was moving while the other one was coming in, while another one was pushing out, while the other one was going by me, while the other one was coming to me, it was crazy, it was all this, so I did talk a little bit about, sensory overload in this podcast, and we'll discuss that later in another podcast. But today's podcast was all about schedule changes and how to cope with them now versus how I did then. Um, I'm going to end this stream. It's not really going to be much of a long stream, but I just wanted to give you guys a real eye-opening experience on people with autism and how they navigate the real world. Okay. As you guys know, I am Sean. Go check out my other channels, my aviation, my motorbike, my photograph, my cars, my review, and there was something else. I can't remember what there is. I know I'm forgetting one. I think I got them all. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna hit the stream in 3, 2, 1. You guys know the drill. I'm Sean. I am out. See you folks.